Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, and welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Some people climb mountains. Kip Clarke helps leaders see that mountains aren't obstacles, they're opportunities in disguise. A 6-time world champion tennis player and award-winning leader, she transformed high achievers into game changers by working backward from their most audacious future visions. Her unconventional blend of laser-sharp coaching, elite athletic experience, and decades of research have one goal: turning your boldest future vision into today's reality. Where others see 10% improvements, she sees opportunities to reimagine the game entirely. After all, anyone can help you climb mountains. Only Kip can help you transform those mountains into catalysts for quantum growth. I love the elements of law of attraction and quantum leap healing and transformation in your bio, Kip. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's a wonderful bio. And for those wanting to learn even more while you're listening to the podcast or after, in the show notes, there is a much longer bio for you. There's a red robin outside my window.
Oh, how lovely.
I had tried to take his picture a couple times and he's gone again. Like before I can grab my phone, he always leaves. But yeah, I just thought I would share it because I was distracted. Okay, so Kip, on your bio, is there anything else that you want to share out of the gate about your professional experiences, your personal experience as a coach?
Oh my goodness, very briefly, as is the case with, I'm sure, most of us, it's been a very circuitous route. When I was in my teen years and thinking about what I wanted to do as an adult, my vision wasn't exactly the way it turned out. It's been a more of a winding road, but fascinating. I was actually an academic for most of my adult career and retired from that a few years ago. And I did a lot of coaching on the side, starting out mostly with coaching athletes, but then it evolved as I developed increasing interest in mindset and really just getting rid of those mental obstacles that can hold us back. My focus shifted and I was working more in that realm, which still applies to the athletic sort of arena, but it has much broader applications also. Really, every area can benefit in a person's life from mindset upgrades. So it's been fascinating. And as I find when I'm speaking to people like you or others, I think we land in a place of helping and serving others because we see a need that's not being met. And like you, I'm sure I've accumulated literally decades of wisdom and experiences, and being able to share those with other people through my coaching, through speaking, networking with people, it's enormously satisfying to me. It's very fulfilling work. I feel like I'm making a difference in the world, one client at a time, one networking event at a time. And it's the Dalai Lama said in the Vancouver Peace Summit, 2017 Vancouver Peace Summit, he said that it'll be Western women that change the world. And so it's the work that you do, the work that I do, the work that so many of these other amazing women are doing out there. And certainly there are lots of men doing fabulous things also. But it was a very interesting perspective that he shared, and it's one that I've taken to heart. And so anything I can do to support, particularly other women, to help empower them, to help them dig deep and uncover what's always been there, because it's absolutely my belief that everything each of us needs is already inside us, but it's been buried sometimes through layers and years of social conditioning. Grief and trauma certainly can contribute to our not being able to use our gifts or even to recognize them as accurately perhaps as we might otherwise. It's been a fascinating journey, and it's one that I don't see an end point. I'm learning all the time. Every day I'm learning something new. I think that's why I became an educator in the first place, is because I loved learning so much. And then the coaching is such a natural progression from that. And I get to continue to learn and then to share what I'm learning with your audience, with my own audience, with other people out there, anyone who wants to listen.
Beautiful. You mentioned the words obstacles, grief, and trauma, and that's the audience I tend to want to instill hope in and healing. What are some of the obstacles, griefs, and trauma that you feel comfortable in talking about that was part of your experience? Because it's easy to be positive when things are la di da, right? When things are going well. But obviously, most of us have obstacles, trauma, things that we're grieving. And that's when we can really see the value of the skills that we learn and tap into that inner healer that you're mentioning. Are you
Yeah.
willing to share anything about that?
Oh, absolutely. As a fully engaged human, I've experienced a lot of pain in my life, pain through death, pain through loss, loss of people, loss of circumstances. I was married a long time ago and that came to an end, and there was enormous grief around that. I've had some major illnesses in my life, and there was a period where I was really struggling with what would I get through it? Who would I be if I don't get through this the way I want? And being an athlete has always been a big part of my identity. What if I'm not able to play and compete and perform at a level I'm used to? What will that mean for me? So those are some of the broader questions. And then more recently, just over the holiday season, I lost three friends, and two of those were losses to cancer, and one very dear friend took his own life. And that all happened in about a 4 week period. Hadn't expected any of those. And the suicide occurred first. And so I was trying to come to terms with that. And then I had news that another friend was dying and she passed away, and then a third friend. I was in a state of hard to explain it. I felt really shut down emotionally. I think that my psyche was just, we go into protection mode, and that's one way we can respond to grief that feels incomprehensible in the moment, is to shut down emotionally. And then I got sick. And I do think that was my physical body's way of just forcing me to just let everything go. And I spent most of the Christmas week in bed, still have a little bit of it left over as I have this residual grief in me, but I'm coming to terms with it. And I think perhaps one of the most important things I'd like to share with your audience is the distinction between pain and suffering. And in my mind, the way I distinguish between those two is this: pain is something we all experience as humans. If we're living a life, we're going to experience pain, as I said before, some type of loss. It might even just be an unmet expectation. So the pain is normal and natural, and it is unique to each of us. So we each deal with it in our own way. And for anyone outside, it's important to let the person grieve in his or her own way and not to try and speed up the process. It's not helpful to say to someone, at least you had someone that's lost the spouse or a partner, to say, at least you had 25 years together. It's not helpful in the moment. We want to try and help this person that's grieving, but that's not the way to do it, because what we're saying is, really, you shouldn't really spend time in grief because look at this positive thing over here.
Look
No,
how
it's
lucky you were.
yes. And there will come a point, hopefully, that the person will get there on his own or her own, but it's not for us to say when that should happen. So, pain, all experience, it's a physical sensation. As I said, sometimes we can feel really shut down from it. Suffering is separate, it's a separate thing. And suffering occurs when we create a story about what the pain means. And we humans are meaning making machines. We love to make meaning of everything that's going on around us. And when there isn't a meaning readily obvious, we will create one. So we can keep ourselves in suffering when we have a story that says, okay, I've suffered this loss, And that means now my life will never be the same. It will never be as good. I'll never be able to get back to feeling happy, or this person left me, this relationship has ended. That means I'm not a worthy person. I don't deserve to be happy in a relationship. So, those are just a couple of examples of the stories that we can tell ourselves, and that will keep us in suffering. And that's what ends up in that kind of squirrel cage thinking where we go around and round with the sort of victim type thoughts. It doesn't help. It's a very low vibration kind of thing. And it'll actually keep us in that horrible state so much longer than we actually need to be. Pain, yes, that's a normal and healthy response. And what's interesting, because I was thinking a little bit before I was going to join you on this interview about pain and typical responses to it. And I remember it's been almost 20 years to the day since my father passed away. And I had gone to see my doctor. It was probably a couple of weeks afterwards, and I was feeling very low. Went to see her about something else, and she said to me, I can give you an antidepressant for that. And I remember thinking, I said no, because I thought, but isn't it normal that I should feel sad? My father has died. Isn't that a normal emotional response to this? Why would I want to dull it? But I think too often we can turn to some kind of measure that will abbreviate the pain we're feeling. And that's not necessarily healthy. For some, it might be alcohol, it might be some kind of drug, whether a pharmaceutical or recreational drug, it might be some kind of behavior that distracts us, that keeps us from thinking about the thing that's causing the pain. But I guess in all of this, I just want to say that the pain is normal and healthy, and it's something that we get to experience as a way of honoring what's been lost, but not to then turn it into suffering by creating some sort of meaning that turns us into a victim as a result of that.
Yeah. And we see that. We see people feeling that there's something wrong with them and that's why they have their losses. No, it really didn't have anything to do with you, the losses we have. No, and I think the point you're making about suffering, we do tend to, not all of us, but when we get in that mindset, like, woe is me, we get stuck very easily and it just keeps us in grief longer. We call that
Mhm.
complicated grief in my field.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good term.
It, yeah, and it can feel very complicated, especially for things like suicide, a murder, things that are really unexpected. When it's a child, but the helicopter plane crash that just happened near me, those things, they are very unexpected and it
Mhm.
can complicate our reaction to it. But yes, feeling the pain, moving through the pain, supporting yourself, we get out of it more quickly. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
more hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think your skills, I know I shouldn't say I know. I'm guessing you have what's called discipline. And the reason I feel like you must have discipline, I don't think you can be a tennis star without having some disciplines in place. Do you think that part of you is a strength that you have that helps heal you as well?
I think, oh, for sure. I think it does, because when you've experienced setbacks, challenges, losses in the sporting field, a loss, depending on the circumstances, it can feel like a death in some ways. And I'm not trying to equate losing a match to losing a beloved person in your life, but it's still a painful thing. But we get through it. And certainly if we learn from it, then there's growth in that. And the discipline required to be an athlete at a certain level, absolutely. But I have had many times in my life where I've been overcome by emotions, and then the discipline just goes out the window. And sometimes trying to force oneself back into a discipline mode too early is a
Yeah.
mistake. So that's not necessarily a good thing. But what I will say is I find it interesting to think in terms of time, past time, present time, future time. And I can dwell on the past and I can think about those losses. And sometimes this happens where we can dwell for a long time on something that's happened in the past, and there's a level of grief with it or a level of loss somehow. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a death, but there's something that's been lost. And we can stay stuck in that and that backward looking perspective. So I tend to work with clients who want to create something for their future. But certainly, if someone is dealing with loss, it needs the time it needs. But there is a point at which we've got to start releasing that grip on the past, being more present today and now, and planning for the future, creating a future vision, again, something to look forward to, something that gives us hope, something that gives us a sense of, I can work towards this again. That's where we get energy and motivation to keep going, is when we've got a vision of something that's possible for us that doesn't exist right now, that we can be maybe not excited about it. Hopefully, at some point, we get excited about it. But perhaps initially, as we're transitioning out of grief and loss, it's a more subtle emotion. It's a little flicker. There's a little light that we can see. There's a little bit of warmth in it where we were just feeling cold and isolated. That's what I would say. And I was remembering an experience I had when I was a teenager. I had a summer job at a in a coffee shop, and these three people would come in every morning, two retired men and a woman who I would guess was in her late 40s, early 50s. And she was in just an abject state of grief. And I would sometimes kind of listen to their conversations as I was working, and she would say things like she didn't know how to look after the finances. Her husband had always taken care of anything. She didn't know how to look after the house. She didn't know how to do anything, and she felt so paralyzed because she didn't know how to do anything. Her husband had done everything. And she was just in a really shut down state. And one morning she was a bit late. Her two companions were there, and I asked one of them how long it had been since her husband had died. And to my surprise, he said, over 9 years. And so this was a woman who had kept herself stuck in suffering, in her grief for such a long time because she could not see a future for herself. She was so completely oriented to her past, the time when her husband was alive, and they had this life together and he was taking care of everything, that she had got herself into the state of complete disempowerment. And that little, excuse me, episode really stayed with me. And I thought, I never want to be in that state where I am so shut down and incapable of even looking after myself at the most basic level. So it was an experience that I think I needed to have, even this arm's length experience of grief at the time. I can see it and hear it as clearly as if it had just happened this morning. That's the impact that it had on me. I don't want anyone ever to feel so shut down by their grief and loss that they can't see any way forward. Sometimes there's a period of that, yes, but just hold on to the belief that things will get better with time in their own way. And there comes a point when it's healthy to start planning for a new future and to start generating some forward momentum again.
Yeah, I think that was such a beautiful example for sure. And I forgot to say, I'm sorry for your losses. I know I had three losses in January, so plus the
Yeah.
plane crash was impacted my community. We're really close by.
Mhm.
So it was a tough time, still a tough time. Can you share what you did specifically, other than it sounded like you accepted the pain that you were having? You tried to take care of yourself as your body got worn down and sick. Did you have that forward vision going on, or were there other things that you were doing that would help you not get so stuck in the losses that you're experiencing?
Yeah, this is one way that looking back into the past can be helpful, because we can look back and see where in my past did I have some experience where I felt really I just had the rug ripped out from under me, and how did I get through that? And I've always been a very goal-oriented person, so that has helped a lot. But I think for me, I've had times where I've just felt like I don't see the future that I saw before this thing happened. It's gone cloudy, it's gone dark for me, but but I know that it'll start to show up for me again. And what I've learned, and I think this is something that could be helpful for all of your listeners, everyone in your community. I know whenever I'm feeling stuck emotionally, if I'm feeling stuck in any way, even intellectually, if I'm trying to create something or write something, or if I'm feeling stuck emotionally, such as after grief of loss, if I'm finding that day after day, I'm not getting the future vision quite yet, then I know what I need to do in order to change this emotional state that's keeping me stuck. I've got to change my physical state first. Now, I'm an athlete, so that's always been important, but this is something that I've been able to support clients with in other areas where I say, if you're stuck on a problem of some kind, if you're feeling like I don't see the way through this, it's usually because we're physically stuck in one spot too. We're not moving our body. So getting outside and going for a vigorous walk, going for a bike ride, doing some yoga. If you like to go to the gym, doing that. If there's an exercise class you go to, call a friend and take your dogs out for a walk. Changing your physical state is the quickest way I've found to shifting an emotional state. And you give it a try. Maybe, and honestly, there have been times when I have not felt like just
Because it's
getting up off the
exhausting.
bed and getting my shoes
Yeah.
on. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, it feels like putting my shoes on to go outside is more than I can handle right now. And it sounds absurd to say that, but it's a genuine feeling that lots of us go through when we're in grief. So I will just say, I'll set up everything I can to help myself. Put the shoes will be out right where I'll see them. So I just need to step into them. Maybe they're shoes I don't even have to lace up, right? I'll make this as easy as possible for myself just to get myself in motion. And if the weather's lousy outside and you've got a stairway in your house or your apartment building, do a few stairs, go up and down a few flights of stairs. Anything that gets the heart rate up, get you breathing a little deeper, getting the oxygen deeper into your lungs. That it's amazing how that will shift our emotional state. It's like magic. That's probably the biggest thing I've found that works for me. And it's worked every time for me, is just I need to shift something in an emotional or intellectual state where I'm stuck. I change my physical state first. I come back to it. And sometimes it's then the answer is right in front of me. I think, how did I not see that before? It's so obvious, but it's not obvious when we're in that grief state. So it's
Yeah,
a good little trick that I've learned, and I think others would find it helpful
I
too.
thought, I think I intuitively knew that, and that's what I meant about you being disciplined. Like, I thought it would be something almost second nature to you to know to move your body because for years you were moving your body. And I know when you were grieving, you weren't out playing championship tennis, but I thought, oh, I bet she probably got herself moving, is what I thought. And that's when my clients first tell me there's a death going on with them, I get them to do four things: movement, so just that little
Mm.
walk, getting food on board if they haven't been eating. So even if it's like an on inshore or some sort of protein
Yeah,
shake, if they have to drink their calories, okay. Getting them have water and then making sure that they are making time for deep sleep, making sure that
yeah,
because sometimes either people overeat or don't eat, oversleep or don't sleep, move or don't move.
yeah.
It's a balance thing for sure, but I know that going out, research shows. Yeah,
Oh,
I yeah,
very clearly, very
yeah.
clearly. Yeah.
And I think
And you know,
sometimes go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Karen, but just something that came up just now is this may seem odd to me to some, but I've also had times I've been stuck in this for a while. I don't like how I'm a total tearjerker to force myself to cry, and I'll cry like I've never cried before. So it's a kind of a catalyst that gets me doing this. And that can be really releasing too, because sometimes we'll hold it inside and not even realize. It's like we'll go through life holding our breath while we're grieving. The breath gets so super shallow. And so that just having a really good cry can shift things a little bit too. And so rent something that's really sad. It's a funny thing to say, but what comes to mind
Oh,
is
I do it.
Stellar. I remember that Disney movie. Oh my gosh, the
Oh,
first movie I just
Bambi.
in my eyes out. Yeah, Bambi. That's right. We're laughing now, but these are heart-rending stories, and they
Mhm.
can actually be a tool that a person can use to help. If this is when you're at the point that you recognize, I've been stuck in this for a while, I need to shift something here. So there's a
Yeah.
bit of volition around making a change. Grab a video of some kind that's a tearjerker and just wallow in it for the hour and a half or so that it goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. Yeah. And I think allowing the release, and if you find that's hard, grabbing like an emotions chart and say, okay, what am I feeling? Let me write about that. Let me get it out of my body. And if you can't articulate, you're so stuck, picture a close friend in the state that you're in. Like, what might they be feeling? And go through it that way. Yeah. So the deeper healing that I encourage are like writing, doing something creative to release in a different way. And then, of course, talking. So we call it
Yeah.
TAW, talk, art, and write, or TWA, talk and art.
Yeah.
After you get that through that beginning stage where it's just hard to get out of bed. Yeah. Okay, so I think we got on a dreary topic of grief. Mm. So let's say somebody's listening, and because of all the trauma they've gone through, they are feeling stuck in low energy. What other things other than movement would you suggest for them? What kind of mind exercises do you teach to help them recover?
Yeah, I think one which I've touched on already is thinking back to past experiences when you've had some kind of grief or loss, and what did you do then to help you get through it? What did you not do? What could have helped more to get you through it? And perhaps, as odd as it sounds, when you're in a period of relative stability and emotionally speaking, if you can, in that frame of mind, think about what would help me the next time I experience pain, what could I have set up? Could I arrange with a close friend that ask her or him to check in with me each day, for example? Or could I make sure that I only have healthy foods in my home so that I'm not going to be tempted to grab things that are actually going to be harmful to me and only exacerbate the pain that I'm feeling? So looking back and seeing what have I done before that helped me? Can I do that now? And looking ahead, when you're out of that grief period and anticipating, because I'm now 62. I hope I have a good 30, 40 years left in me. I will for sure experience pain again. So now that I'm in a relatively emotionally stable state, what would have helped me this most recent time when I've lost these three friends? What could have helped me earlier? How can I set those up, even tentatively, so that I've got some scaffolding in place to support me when I'm feeling like I can't do this on my own here? I think probably connecting with other people is perhaps the most important, because grief can be such an isolating experience. We feel like nobody else understands. I remember the first time I lost someone, it was my grandfather, and I was a teenager. And I remember just being in such a state of grief and looking around me thinking, how can all these people be going on with their lives and laughing and having fun when it's like the world has ended here? How is it even possible? And there's a beautiful poem, I think it's called Stop All the Clocks. And it speaks to that sentiment of how is it that the sun is rising? How is it that everything else in the world is going on as if nothing has happened, as if nothing has changed, when everything has changed? And that's purely from the perspective of the one in grief. So I remember thinking that way when I was younger and feeling so isolated in my grief. And so if I had someone, of course, I had my family, but as adults, I think we often feel like we've got to soldier through it on our own, that it's somehow a sign of weakness if we're giving into the grief. And it's absolutely not. It's, in fact, a sign of strength that you're willing to feel the feelings. Anyway, again, I'm talking
Absolutely.
about pain and not suffering, but it's a healthy thing. And as soon as possible, connect with another human to just to check in, just to have something that gets you out of your own head. And I can remember one time a friend of mine, when I was going through a really difficult time. It wasn't through the loss of through death, but something else that was really challenging. And we were on the phone and I was just in such a state. And she just talked to me. She talked to me for it was probably 2 hours. And she was just telling me what was going on outside her window and the things that she'd done during the day and what she was planning for the week. And what it did was it took me out of my head. I'm just listening to her. It was almost a stream of consciousness. And after that, I thought, what a kindness that was that she did. What a kind thing. And sometimes it's just to have someone to sit with, not speaking necessarily, just being with. This is another human. There's another beating heart here beside me. And just that presence is powerful enough that I feel supported. I remember Charlie Mackesy. He's the brilliant guy in the UK who's written The Boy, the Mole, the Horse, and the Fox. And he talked about when he suffered grief, and he had this friend, his best friend died when he was in his teen years. And another friend came and just sat with him, didn't try to say, it'll get better, didn't try to say, at least the friend just sat in silence. I don't think we can overestimate the power of human connection in whatever form that might take. And it's maybe asking for that if we're in grief, or recognizing that might be needed if we see someone who is important to us in grief.
It was very beautifully said. Yeah, I agree with all that. The healing in within community, within relationships is huge. It's probably
Yeah.
one of those quantum leap ideas, right?
Yeah.
Much slower on your own, and when we're in a community, it can help. It's collective wisdom, collective energy, collective
Yeah.
heartbeats. I love that you mentioned heartbeat. Okay, we are running out of time. I love your wisdom. I definitely feel it. There's a lot there, a lot of good quality. I love the connection you have with energetics and the mind and body connection. It's beautiful. Any last piece of wisdom you want to impart us with before you leave?
Oh, I guess it's just to say that for anyone who is in grief right now, just know that you're not alone. It can feel like that, but you're not alone. And there are lots of supports in exactly the way that you need. If you can articulate that and get the help, it is important to do that, not to go through it on your own. And just know it will get better in time, but not to try and rush it, to feel the feelings as a measure of respect for the lost, but to have an intention that at some point you will start to be forward looking again and start seeing the vision for what's possible again, because it is always there available to us. It's just that we get this kind of screen that drops over our eyes for a period of time. And of course that happens because we need to process, to deal with it, and to start the healing. And it'll come when it comes, but just not to stay stuck in that kind of backward looking perspective too long and thinking about only what's lost, but still that I can create that's beautiful, possibly as a result of that or otherwise. But there is always hope available to all of us.
Beautiful. I'm a hope dealer. That's what they call us. You're a hope
Ah,
dealer too.
I like it.
Thank you so much, Kip, for being a guest today and sharing your wisdom with my audience and hopefully your audience. So thanks
Yes, it's
again.
been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.